Alpha Trion, father of the Autobots, creator of Optimus Prime in some continuities, rebel against the Quintesson oppression. Yes, Alpha Trion was introduced in 1985 during the search for Alpha Trion, and they found him. Hey, big surprise. But what they did not find, and we didn't find on store shelves, were toys of Alpha Trion for many years. But now we have a lot. So we are going to go through the evolution of Alpha Trion from the very first toy to the latest releases. And we're gonna have some fun along the way. Now, before we go too much further, I do want to thank our sponsor of this video, Toy Hacks. Toy Hacks has amazing decals for your G1s, your G2s, all the way up to the latest Studio Series, Age of the Primes. Whichever toy you have, they probably got a sticker for it. So you want to check them out, because they also have an armory and backdrops. So go to toyhacks.com, and yeah, there's a Prime over here, Vector Prime. You've been watching all along. You can get stickers for him too. But before you go to toyhacks.com and get some amazing decals, we're going to talk about Alpha Trion and his evolution. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Captain Kyle. Welcome aboard. If you've been watching a while, thanks for coming back, and I hope you enjoy this evolution video. Be right back. So I don't have all the Alpha Trion toys, but I have the major ones, and particularly the ones that transform. But there was a non-transforming one back in 2002, so that was like 17 years afterwards. But that was a PVC figure. They were blind box PVCs that were put out, and I'm not even sure if it was one of the Heroes of Cybertron. May not have been a Heroes of Cybertron released in the US, but they had these blind box PVC figures in Japan, and they brought them over to the US, but on cards so that you knew what you were getting. And they were kind of like blockies in the fact that you could take them apart, but you didn't have to assemble them. But there was an Alpha Trion. Enjoy the picture. That's all I got. I think I stopped collecting PVCs at that point because I had bought the original blind boxes and I went through them and I sold extras, and there were pewter ones and there were clear ones, and I just eventually gave up. I like my Transformers to transform. And one came out that did in 2007. 5 years later, there was the Botcon exclusive of Alpha Trion. Now, you may notice his shoulder. This one's kind of loose. Sorry, it's just happens with toys eventually. But Alpha Trion is a remold and repaint of the original Vector Prime. And he was put out back in 2007. And I'm pretty sure Vector Prime was from Armada. So he does not have a key, but this guy, as the first representation of Alpha Trion, who never transformed in the show, but he's actually about 8 inches tall, so he's a pretty big bot. And as you can see, he comes with a mighty sword, and his Minicon partner, who I forget the name, who is a jet in his own right, but also an arm weapon and also a robot. This Minicon, just to quickly go over him, is only a bit of a little guy, but he's actually got more posability than the Micromasters, which were about the same size. He's not doing a Jean-Claude Van Damme, but his legs could move back and forth separately. He had knees. Well, he still does have knees. He has knees. Gotta watch my tenses there. His arms could go all the way around, bend at the elbow. No swiveling, but what can you do? The head did not turn, but still an improvement over many of the Micromasters. Some of them had knees. Most of them did not have elbows, and some of them you couldn't really move the legs independently. So he just transforms pretty quickly and easily. You flip up this big honking gun on his back, you fold those over, and he's kind of a mini version of his partner. And he's a flying weapon who's actually about almost 3.5 inches long. But in robot mode, he only stands about 2¼ inches long. So that gun on his back makes quite a bit of difference. But it is handy for keeping him from falling over if you don't have the feet exactly right. And in his vehicle mode, he can also be used as a weapon. You can attach it to one of the Minicon ports on Alpha Trion, and there you go. Now, Alpha Trion, we never knew what he was supposed to transform into, but we did know that he was known as A3, a young Autobot, while the Quintessons were occupying Cybertron, and he was one of the architects of the downfall and kicking out those squid-looking mofos from Cybertron. So he's very important. So I do not know if A3 was able to transform, or if that was something that they didn't learn to do. According to the history of Rodimus that Rodimus Prime had, they did not transform at that time. It wasn't until after the Quintessons were gone that the conflict between the military and the domestic model started, and then transformation became a thing. So I imagine that Alpha Trion, unless he upgraded himself, did not have the ability to transform, but many of them now do. Now this is G1 lore. This is not going by Transformers 1 or anything having to do with the 13 Primes, because he's apparently one of the 13 Primes, and he can transform in those things. Well, let's go over some quick posability in case you don't have the original Vector Prime, but it's all the same posability. There are no ankle swivels, but his toes can kind of point a little bit. He can do a full toes up Jean-Claude Van Damme, but his accessories on his back make it, well, he can do it in midair. There you go. Or, you know, on chairs. Now he's got these little flaps here so he can actually kick forward. He's actually got guns on his toes so he can not only kick you where your legs meet, but fire these at the same time, I would hope. Bends at the knee. Kicking backwards is not happening. He does have swivels for his legs, which is nice. Full side kick, in fact, it's a little bit more than going straight across. Who would have thought he's so flexible? Now, he did not have any ability to twist at the waist. His arms could go all the way around, but you just had to, you know, kind of flip the wings back. They could go out to the side. He could bend at the elbow. I need to, like, stiffen up this flap here. Did he have? He does not appear to have any type of swivel on the upper arm, but he does have a swivel on his lower arm. So, and his head could turn all the way around. So good posability for the very first transforming Alpha Trion, even though that's not accurate to G1 lore, unless of course he was reformatted. I am transformed. Okay, we're not going to talk about beast machines. But he actually has this big honking protrusion on his back. So again, he's a lot like his Minicon. The Minicon is practically modeled after him. And I really wish that would stay up. Or you could move them both down and then, you know, he looks even. But yes, this toy is from 2007, so I am not sure if I should take it off, try to squeeze it and put it back on, or if I should try to thicken up the post in the back with some clear nail polish. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. But he did transform. First thing you do is you turn his head the other way, so he's not looking, and you move this up just like his Minicon partner. And his arms, you push those down, and you could basically push the arms in. There's little posts on the side of his hips that plug the arms right in there. The wings come out like so. The toes point and actually go underneath. You bend the legs underneath, and then you open up his wings so he looks like an advanced TIE fighter. Now, what I like about this toy and Vector Prime is he does have weapon storage. You put his sword in, so it actually makes it symmetrical. And then you take his Minicon, and it has a spot to plug right here, so he has a weapon. But yes, this was the first transforming version of Alpha Trion, and a little bit better than a PVC figure. Though they did have some PVCs at Botcon. Now, in addition to his gun here, he actually does have a missile that goes into the front of his backpack / nose cone. So he could also fire missiles. So well armed. He did have a cyber key. My apologies. I don't know where the cyber key is, but you would put it in here, and I don't know that it did anything. I think it just sat there. So yeah, I don't know. I probably have the cyber key in my huge collection of cyber keys that I have put away. But there you have it, the very first Alpha Trion. In vehicle mode, he's actually about 10.5 inches. And as a Botcon exclusive, he's a little more pricey and difficult to get than some versions of Alpha Trion. And I'm thinking if I put the gun on this arm, it'll keep up his shoulder pad so he doesn't look so doofy. Not doofy from Scream, you know. And he could always start his sword fights. Oh, he bends at the elbow. I don't know. I could show that. But he could start his sword fights with the sword in his left hand, and then he could be like, there's something I must tell you. I am not left-handed. And then switch and kick some butt. So, Alpha Trion Botcon edition. But in 2012, there was another version of Alpha Trion, but this one did not transform. This one was a third-party version put out by Impossible Toys. So we're not going to do too much with him. I actually did a review on him along with 2 other figures from Impossible Toys from the movie. So you can check that out if you like. And spinning him too much is not good for him. But he does have some articulation, like he could bend his leg back, turn his legs a little bit, but he's mainly just a figure. The shoulder pads move, and you could move his arm back and forth. He does have a clear cape, and his head can turn a bit from side to side because of his collar. But this was the Impossible Toys version of the character, little homage. Doesn't transform. In fact, in 2014, in Japan, by Artstorm, they put out a non-transforming figure as well. There's a picture right here. If there's not, it means I couldn't find one, but if there is, yay me. Like I said, I don't have all the Alpha Trions, but I did have this one and the ability to show you the picture of the Artstorm figure. And in 2015, there was in Japan the Legends version of Ultra Magnus, who came with a small Alpha Trion figure. I don't have that. So again, picture right over here. But the very next year, we got an actual transforming Alpha Trion figure. He is the Voyager-sized Titans Returns Alpha Trion. And I think they repainted him at some point. He was retooled into the Legends Leo Prime, and apparently he was repurposed as Shattered Glass Alpha Trion. But this was the first actual mass-produced Alpha Trion transforming toy. So very nice, very nice. And he stands a whopping 7¼ inches tall. And he's got this stupid trigun thing. I don't really like it. He's got these horns on his head that push down. Come on, push down, push down, push down. And are supposed to lock into place, but they don't like staying that way. But that's what he looks like when he's not horny. And then if you press this button, he becomes horny. Yeah, that's pretty much, you know, he's a male figure and doesn't take much to get male horny. But he comes with a sword as well, and Sovereign is his Titan Master. So he is indeed a headmaster. Or Titan Master, but they decided not to call them headmasters. I guess probably because of the adult film by the same name. But overall, he's pretty cool. I am going to remove his weapons, and let's go over some quick posability. So, no ankle swivels with Titans Returns, at least not this Titans Returns figure. He does, though, have the ability to do a full toes-up Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, I moved his crotch plate forward, so he could actually go crotch down. But unfortunate that there's no ankle swivels, but he's got pretty thick feet. He could kick forward, not a ton. Kicking back is much better. Side kick, split side kick, bends at the knee, like so, about 90 degrees. And does not swivel all the way around, but does have a swivel so his leg can go like so. If you move it out to the side, then you can swivel it all the way around, but this piece here is keeping it from swiveling all the way around when it's straight up and down. So what can you do? He does not twist at the waist. That is beyond his capabilities. His arms can go all the way around. His bend at the elbow, more than 90 degrees. He does have a swivel on his shoulder. Not on his shoulder, on his elbow. Now, when the horns are up, oh, he can also go out somewhat to the side. But these lion head type, unicorn lion head type things kind of get in the way. Now, there was at one point going to be, I think, a toy version of him that was supposed to be like a Leo Prime thing, maybe a Botcon exclusive, but yeah, for some reason Alpha Trion became an Alpha Lion. But if we push the horns down, his head can activate the horns. Yeah, apparently the whole thing of them staying down, they're pretty much on a hair trigger for everybody. So if I go very carefully, I can turn the head all the way around as long as the horns aren't up. They're probably going to pop out again. Now, I believe he has weapon storage. You can put the sword, I think, on the back of his shoulder, maybe. This can go here when he's in robot mode. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have weapon storage for the sword. Oh well, he can carry it. But still a pretty cool looking figure. Now he changes into two other forms. He's a triple changer. Goes from being a non-transforming bot into a triple changer. And I'm not going to show you the transformation because I'm not that smooth at it. But he becomes a unicorn-style lion. If you wish to attach his gun in this mode, you can plug it into port right here. Which kind of stinks because it's, you know, not symmetrical. His sword becomes the tail by sliding into there. Just don't hit it because it will come out. Now this area, it actually looks like another lion's head, which is kind of weird, but it doesn't have the horn. But it does seem reminiscent of the lions of Voltron. But it actually opens up, and his Titan Master Sovereign, who's the face of the whole operation, you can unfold him to become his robot self or Nebula or whatever he is. His arms can actually go forward, and his legs can move forward as well. So you can put him in the controls area, and there you go. He's a lion with a horn. Unilion. Liocorn. I don't know. Battle Unicorn? No, that's something totally different. But wait, there is more. Because he can also change into kind of a flying aircraft carrier, which reminds me a bit of Voltron. And there he is as an aircraft carrier. And obviously the Voltron he reminds me of is the vehicle Voltron. So part of him reminds me of the Lion Force Voltron, and the other part reminds me of the carrier that brought around vehicle Voltron. And he's not bad as a aircraft carrier. I mean, obviously you can see he's got paws that will give you pause. And if you look closely, you can see his hands, which basically are, you know, the lower jaw of the lion, which is kind of cool when you think about it. And without the sword, he's about 8¼ inches with the end of the sword sticking out. It goes to 9. And of course, you can take your little headmaster dude. He can hop into this for reasons. Maybe it could launch. He could fly around and shoot people. Or he could just fall out. Or he could just be a gunner and, you know, turn from side to side and shoot the evil forces of Zarkon. I don't remember which team fought who. I mean, Zarkon, I think, was against the Lion Force. I forget who the vehicle Voltron people were fighting. New people all the time because they've traveled around. But there you have the 2016 Titans Returns version, which is a pretty cool version. Again, the whole lion thing has become part of Alpha Trion's lore, and I don't know why that they thought Alpha Trion should be a lion, just because Trion and Lion kind of sound alike. Lion, Trion. But because of that decision, there would be other versions of Alpha Trion as a lion. The one thing I will say about this figure is the claws have a tendency to detach from time to time, and that's no fun. So in 2016, we had a pretty cool Alpha Trion who is generally released. And then in 2018, we had this. So those who are very familiar with the G1 line, particularly Pretenders, look at this and say, hey, that's Landmine. Well, apparently this is supposed to be Alpha Trion. Go figure. Who stands a whopping slightly more than 2 inches, 2 1/8 inches in his armor. But in the Landmine disguise, if you open it up, inside there is Alpha Trion, who's like a Titan Master. If, you know, Titan Masters weren't supposed to have faces. So this little armor piece, which again looks like the Pretender Landmine, I wouldn't mind, in all honesty, if they actually put out new Pretenders. Be kind of cool. But these were what they put out. Little Titan Master-ish figures who went inside the armor, didn't have a lot of posability, and when they changed into the head, in this case, he looks like he has a bunch of eyes. He looks like almost Tarantulas if they removed one eye and there weren't 9. So he could fit inside the armor. You could also detach the back gun, and he could use it as a big honkin' weapon. But if we put the gun back, you could transform him, flip this little lever, and he became a gun, including with his inner robot, aka Alpha Trion, popped right on there. A gun that's about a little over 3½ inches long. Why? I don't know why, but there you have it. But a year later, there was another version of Alpha Trion. But I'm not sure of his lore, because he's from the Cyberverse. He is a very simplistic version. I won't even say version, I'll just say simplistic transformer overall. But he does not have a gun. I have a solution. He now has a gun. You know, he's kind of holding himself, trying to make himself shoot. Shut up, Logan. But yes, this is the Cyberverse version. He does not change into a lion, but he has a very simple transformation, and he basically changes into a spaceship type thing. Now, as far as posability, his legs can go out to the side. They cannot go forward or back. He kind of has knees, but then that happens, and you lose part of him. So the only way you can really bend him at the knee is if you move the leg way out to the side. He's got these shields that can pop over to the sides, and he bends at the elbow and goes out to that's pretty much it. His head doesn't turn. This is basically like a G1. But he wasn't supposed to be all that complicated, I don't think. But what we do is we're going to transform him, and to do that, we do have a swivel on the legs near the top, which is part of the transformation. And that allows you to turn the legs in, but you want to put the arms down to the side because they are going to be hidden by the legs going over them. We'll flip these forward to get them out of the way. Kind of got to wiggle a little bit. Shut up, Logan. And that becomes the front of the ship. These go down, you have these guns that spring out, and that is pretty much his Sky Sled spacecraft mode. If you look from below, you can still see his face, and that he's an Autobot. These can be pushed back in, so he can fly without threatening anybody, but a couple buttons here, and he's ready to blast. So this was a Cyberverse action attack with his action attack laser beam blast, Alpha Trion. Again, an interesting figure, not the most quality bot that I've come across. At least now you know what to do with Landmine Trion needs gun. That's when you thought we were totally in the realm of transforming Alpha Trions. Well, Reaction put this out. So if you're not familiar with the Reaction figures, then good for you. But they have put out figures, all kinds of figures from all kinds of lines, including Transformers. And they put out a lot of Transformers, including Alpha Trion, who is a 3 3/4 inch. So let's check that out. Maybe slightly over because of the horns. Action figure with 5 points of articulation. The head, barely. Just like the other one, you can't really move it because of the collar. And the legs go forward and back. And the arms can go around. And he's got a cape that reminds me of Obi-Wan Kenobi's, though it stays on better. So this Reaction figure came out in 2020, and he's an Alpha Trion. But it almost looks like a lot of him was like, they looked at the Impossible Toys version and said, we can do worse. But then came 2022 Legacy. The Legacy version came in a 2-pack with an Orion Pax, who was based on Cup, and 3 guesses on who he's based on. First 2 don't count. He is based on Scourge. Yes, the Scourge from the 86 line. And he's a pretty cool looking figure overall. He's definitely reminiscent of the original Alpha Trion and doesn't change into a lion. But he is a rebold repaint of Scourge. So unlike the Titans Returns one, which was an all-new original mold, and I hope to God that the Cyberverse one was an all-new original mold. I'm not even going to speculate. This was definitely based on another toy. So let's go through some posability on this guy. First of all, he can't do a full goes up Jean-Claude Van Damme. He can't even do a full split, but that comes closer. But he can kick forward, he can kick back. Like I said, sidekick, about using both feet. You got to watch out for his wings. He can somewhat do that. He can bend at the knee about 90 degrees. Now he does have a swivel, but his leg came off. So it swivels to the side and to the front. That's pretty much it. His arms, well, first of all, twisting at the waist. That's not a problem all the way around. I'm gonna take the gun out of his hand. Arms can't go all the way around because of his wings or his, whatever these are. Bends at the elbow, has a swivel there. His hands can turn all the way around. His head goes from side to side. That's pretty much it. He can kind of wiggle back and forth. And his arms can't go out to the side, actually quite high. There you have it. Now he's got all this kibble on the back, but that's part of Scourge as well as him. But he is pretty cool, and he does come with the key to Vector Sigma, which can go into the Vector Sigma that I have over there. And of course, they did not make it so that his hand could also go in there and then he could die, reactivating Vector Sigma, but, create the Aerialbot so that they could later on save his life and keep him alive when he was A3. Long story, but a cool sci-fi one. Now, transforms very similar to Scourge, and there he is as a spacecraft of some kind. Strain those up. So similar looking to Scourge, he could probably blend in with the sweeps, and he is about 7 inches in length in this form. And of course I didn't measure him in robot mode, so he's about 6 3/4 inches counting from the top of his wing things. But a hero is born. And again, he came with Orion Pax, so that kind of makes sense. Now there is another toy of him that doesn't transform that I don't happen to have with me. He is the Jada Toys little metal figs, real small. Here's a picture of him. I have him somewhere. I just didn't find him for this video. I don't know where those packs are, but he came with a whole bunch of other ones. But that was in 2023, so time marches on. Now, because there's not that many, I have decided to include the Transformers 1 version. This is the Prime Changer. As you see, he's got a little dagger and a kind of sword whip type thing. And this is where he becomes a lion. So for Transformers 1, he was one of the 13 primes who did not create Optimus Prime, though he was They're in spirit when Orion Pax became Optimus Prime. And I did a full review on him before, but I'm just going to quickly go through him again. But he is subject to the laws of physics, so spinning him too quickly on the turntable of doom will cause problems. He also cannot quite do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme because of his ball joints. He does have ankle swivels that are pretty dang generous. He can kick forward and back and side kick. A little bit, almost a full split. Just about, except his leg comes off. Twisting at the waist all the way around. Arms can go all the way around, but you gotta angle them out a little bit because of the wings that he has. Bends at the elbow, swivels, and his fists don't move. His arms can go out to the side. His head can go forward and back. He can turn a little bit. A lot of the Alpha Trions don't turn their head all that much, so this is no different. Now, he's got his two weapons here, but I'm going to give him a spin on the turntable of doom, maybe a little slower. In slow motion. Anyways, and he stands about 5.5 inches tall. But he transforms into a lion bastard. And for whatever reason, he also has a horn. So there he is in his horny lion mode. Zoom in a little bit on him. Yes, that is a Transformers 1 Prime Changer version. Pretty simple transformation. But Transformers 1, there you go. But Transformers 1 isn't done with us, because I also found out about this guy, the Robot Battler. So he actually does also transform, but we've got to get him off the card, because I just got him for the purposes of this review. So he does come with a shitty piece of paper, instructions, and he is a much smaller version. Well, not much, but he's about 4 3/4 inches tall. Let's refer to these instructions, which show the transformation on one side and his robot battling on the other. Now, he comes with a tail weapon, he comes with a little horn weapon, and he comes with these robot battler things. So the robot battling part, you put the weapons in his hands, you plug him in, and he falls out. You plug him in, and he battles. Tenor like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, only you just lost a sock'em. So this weapon doesn't like to stay in that well, but his arms are designed to be floppy so that they'll fly out and hit other robot battlers. So that is the robot battling part. The transformation is only 5 steps. You lift up the lion head and it actually moves like the whole body. Put its horn right there. You move his his arms forward and plug them into there so they don't flop around. And then you plug the tail right there. And there he is. He looks more like a boar with a horn, but it's supposed to be a lion with a horn. So there you have him, the amazingly floppy-armed Alpha Trion, who is almost 5 inches in his lion mode, count to the horn. So there's only a few to go. And one is a non-transforming Galaxy version 7 Transformers 1 Series 2 from Blockies. And I just took off his shoulder cover accidentally. Whoops. Superposable model kit. Blockies are awesome. It's got more posability, though his head, well, it can turn around upside down. But yeah, he's got more posability than his other 2 transforming partners. And finally, the last one in the journey is the Age of the Primes Alpha Trion as one of the 13. Let's get him out of here. And I am happy to say he does not turn into a lion, but I have not removed him from the box yet. So there he is, removed from the box on his cardboard. Shitty piece of paper. Instructions. I know he's the father of the Autobots, but when he was one of the 13, he wasn't an Autobot to begin with. And it's a different kind of Autobot paper every time. Why can't they just do some Decepticon paper? Or, in this case, just not use any paper. So these in here are 2 little plastic pieces and a feather. And he's got a book with ancient text in it. Some kind of shield thingy. And now he is free. And I have to say, he looks pretty good as Alpha Trion. To my knowledge, he is not a repaint of anybody. They'll probably repaint him into Scourge. Well, let's take a look at the instructions. Now, first of all, his feet, he's got heels, which don't seem to want to come out, but we'll get him out. So he should stand better that way. These 2 knobby things go onto his shoulders like the spikes that he originally had, though they're not sharp. We lift up his back piece. We take this, which turns out to be his cape. We plug that in there and flip that down. Now, I guess this is supposed to be more of a pen rather than a weapon. And the book goes into his hand like so he can journal. Some people still do that. And apparently, he can never put the book down. Though he can be defensive if you detach this piece. And there we go. So the shield doesn't seem to like staying on. So I don't know if anyone else has experienced this problem, but its shield doesn't stay on for crap. I'll try the other arm just for giggles. So that's annoying. And apparently it goes back there in a different way than I had originally put it using the post. But now the post won't go in. So not happy about that. Now apparently his Autobot symbol comes out, which, you know, technically he shouldn't have one yet. Not the easiest thing to get out. And supposedly you can put it in his hand. I mean, why? You can put it in his hand like that relatively easily, but it doesn't seem to want to go into his hand any other way, and seems kind of stupid to me. And if you want, you can take off one of these pegs and put his Autobot symbol on his shoulder. Why? And then the peg into his arm. Again, why? I mean, I appreciate them providing some additional functionality, but some shit, this doesn't make a lot of sense. But apparently, you can take, supposedly, the feather quill and attach it to this shield thing and put that back under here, then put the book on his back. So he doesn't have to carry it all the time. But still, the shield not going on kind of irritates me. All that, we haven't even gotten to the posability yet. All right, I'm gonna take the book off the back. We'll leave the other parts. First of all, full Jean-Claude Van Damme and then some. Ankle swivels, super generous. Will never be out that far, I would hope. Now, this plate. Yeah, she's got plates in front of his legs, so he can kick forward. Kicking back, you would have to, like, remove the shield. Side kick, full side kick. Bending at the knee, the shield fell anyway. So let's see. Back kick. If you lift that up, he can back kick. So bending at the knee, a little bit more than 90 degrees, and swiveling. Twists at the waist all the way around. Probably not so easy to do with the shield in place. Or whatever the heck, wings, whatever. Arms go all the way around, go off to the side. Bends at the elbow. Nice swivel. Hands do not turn, but they move in like this so you can have a wrist squirter. I don't know. Shoulder pads move up. Head actually turns all the way around, and it can go back and forth. And also seems to have a bit of an ab crunch. So he can be like looking down like, why isn't my penis working? What the hell? I swear this never happens to me. So pretty posable figure. Spinning him around. Only thing so far is the shield not wanting to cooperate. All right, let us take the final Alpha Trion and transform him. So there he is in his vehicle mode. I gotta say, not the easiest transformation, not the most difficult, but very exacting. And the shield wanted to be a pain. Storage for his quill is here, the book is here, and it's a pretty neat ship, about 6 inches long. Nice canopy here. His head here, I don't think they're gonna make this into a Scourge, but still they could do, who knows, they might too. I wonder if you can move these back and make them into like boosters at some point, or if they're just supposed to stay like that. I don't know. Your toy, you play with it the way you want. But that is the final one in the evolution. And in case I didn't give his height before, he's about almost 6 3/4 inches, 6.5, 6 3/4. So from a character that appeared on the TV show, but never got a toy, to an iconic character with a few toys and a special place in many a fan's heart. Alpha Trion has broke the bonds of his non-toyiness, that's a word, and is now many a toy. Of course, I'll put links to all these guys in the description, and I think these guys are really fun. And some of them you can probably make more fun if you add some stickers from our sponsor, Toy Hacks. Yeah, way back then, remember I mentioned them, who they have stuff for G1 and G2 figures all the way up through Titans Returns and Legacy and Age of the Primes and Studio Series. You definitely want to check them out, along with their backdrops and armory at toyhacks.com. And Alpha Trion, I'm glad he is now with us. It's a fun character, a fun figure. And if you're having fun, by all means, feel free to subscribe. That would be awesome. And while you are deciding which Alpha Trions you need to have in your collection, if not all of them, well, maybe not that little guy, you can check out this video over here, which is actually the evolution of Cyclonus, who, you know, bad guy, made by Unicron, all that kind of stuff. And we will see you next time. As always, have fun and good hunting.